So this is for all you amateur filmmakers out there. I've always wanted a zip cam to help me with my filming, and they're pretty expensive to buy. So I built one for around 150 bucks using some parts from a remote controlled car and some parts from the hardware store. Alright, I'm going to show you how it works. Alright, so we'll take a closer look at it here. So again, I built it out of a new bright Scorpion RC Pro, and it worked out really good because it had all of these cables that connect and disconnect, and a lithium ion battery which holds a pretty decent charge. Kind of loud. You're probably going to want to dub your audio on top of it. But it climbs down this cable and back up like this. The camera rotates from down there. That shows up. So again, this is where the GoPro mounts, and I use the turning apparatus for the wheels off the remote control car. And you can see I just cut out the housing, and I ran, I put a bicycle tube with some glue, and I'll show you what that piece is later. It's from a garage door, but that gear drives it. I just mounted it with glue for the moment. That screw is on there just in case I needed some extra downward pressure. I could force it down a little bit. It runs on that rubber wheel, a bit of friction off that drive gear. It's a little bit fast at the moment, and I'm working on ways to slow it down. Alright, so we're on the camera trolley now, and I bought a relatively inexpensive RC, although it's pretty good quality, but the range is only about 80 feet. I know that you can get better remotes, like for airplanes, they go up to like 800 feet, and if you want to get into that, that'd be a really good idea. But I'll show you some of the features and how this thing works. So again, you can control the camera. Sits on a system of 3 pulley wheels from a sliding glass door and the drive wheel of the RC car. Okay, so for mounting this thing, I found these springs crucial, as the gauge and the rope can change thickness, whatever how tight you have the rope strung. So the springs will keep constant tension down on the rope, and that I found to be quite essential. I'll try and get this thing apart as gingerly as possible. So like I said, with this new Bright, I really lucked out. It has all of these cables conveniently pop apart, making access to my motors a lot easier and building this whole rig really simple. Okay, now I pop these springs off. One, two, and here is your driving unit. Now this is the wheel I was talking about. So as you can see, I just took a Dremel and I exposed the main drive wheel of the RC car, and I let that sit with the rope in between that wheel right there. So this little guy right here sits on below the rope, the wheel sits on top, and it rides up and down. So this is your pendulum mounted drive gear, and what this thing is essentially is a garage door with a wheel. So that would ride up and down a rail on a garage door. You can probably find those at any Home Depot. So yeah, I used a drill bit, cutting oil, vice grips, and I just punched a few holes through these. I used a bit of self-tapping screws as well. And there's your pendulum. So this rubber ring that I put on there drives that drive gear and allows your camera to turn. Like I said, this screw I put on here in case you need some extra downward force. Sometimes the glue doesn't mount very well, it just helps you out. Right now it's not actually essential for me, I just left it on there in case you guys have trouble building your own rig. So the battery pack, I've mounted it pretty low to try and get like downward weight so this thing doesn't wobble around too much. These are just T-brackets from any fence or like pole mount you find in the hardware section. The rope line going through the zip line going through is really crucial that you don't have too much zigzag on it unless you're on a really steep angle. The more of a bend in the rope, the more friction and the harder it is for you to drive the system. So yeah, you want to try and run that rope as straight as possible, but I did drill myself a few extra holes just in case I am on a steep incline and I need that extra resistance. So that's your rider zone. Okay, so I'll just put it all back together. It's pretty easy actually, it's just snap and play. Coating on the inside of the swing arm here to give this thing a bit of resistance so that it doesn't just flop around wildly when you're driving. So yeah, you can see that sits in there in the Velcro. It wobbles back and forth and more or less holds its position on the angle you want. And if you just rock the trolley back and forth with the RC, you'll pretty much find your angle, and it's nice to have it not wobble around too much because you get a bit of a steadier shot. So getting these cuts out of the drive wheel was a bit of a trick, and I didn't get it perfectly, so I just added some extra plastic to the outside of my rig so that clamps for things. Alright, so yeah, putting it back together. Motor on. Spring. Second spring. Go. So hopefully that'll inspire some people to build their own, and I hope you have as much fun filming as I do. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.